Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajakacharya Astotra Sata Shishmaras Divine Grace Shila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Privrajakacharya Astotra Sata Shishmaras Divine Grace Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Premsikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhanityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Nidai Gaur Premanande Hari Haribo. All glories to simple devotees. All glories to simple devotees. All glories to simple devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we'll be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 8, Text 21. Krishnaya Vasudevaya. Okay. Nama Pankaja Nabhaya. Nama Pankaja Maline. Nama Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankaja Maline. Namah Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankaja Maline. Namah Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankaja Maline. Namah Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Prabhus. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankaja Maline. Namah Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankaja Maline. Namah Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankaja Maline. Namah Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankaja Maline. Namah Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Mataji. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankaja Maline. Namah Pankaja Netraya. Namaste Pankajangraye. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya. Namah Pankajamalane. Namah Pankajanetraya. Namaste Pankajanghraye. Word meanings. Namaha, all respectful obeisances. Pankajanabhaya, unto the Lord, who has a specific depression resembling a lotus flower in the center of his abdomen. Namaha, obeisances. Pankajamalane, one who is always decorated with a garland of lotus flowers. Namaha, obeisances. Pankajanetraya, one whose glance is as cooling as a lotus flower. Namate, respectful obeisances unto you. Pankaja angraye, unto you, the soles of whose feet are engraved with lotus flowers, and who therefore said to possess lotus feet. Translation: my respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Please repeat. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Here are some of the specific symbolical marks on the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead, which distinguish his body from the bodies of all others. They are all specific features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by his specific bodily features. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. This is claimed because women, Shudras, the labor class, and the Dvija Bandhus, or the wretched descendants of the higher three classes, are unfit by intelligence to understand the transcendental subject matter concerning the spiritual name, fame, attributes, forms, etc. of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such persons, although they are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord, can see him as the Archa Vigraha, who descends on the material world just to distribute favor to the fallen souls, including the above-mentioned women, Shudras, and Dvija Bandhus. Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each and every one of the innumerable universes as the Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of his transcendental abdomen. And thus Brahma, the first living being in the universe, is born. Therefore the Lord is known as Pankajanabhi. The Pankajanabhi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha, his transcendental form, in different elements, namely a form within the mind, a form made of wood, a form made of earth, a form made of metal, a form made of jewel, a form made of paint, a form drawn on sand, etc. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, and there should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees always engaged in material wranglings. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore the Lord is merciful even to the women, Shudras, and Dvija Bandhus, provided they agree to visit the temple of worship in different forms made for them. Such temple visitors are not idolaters, as alleged by some men with a poor fund of knowledge. All the great acharyas established such temples of worship in all places just to favor the less intelligent, and one should not pose himself as transcending the stage of temple worship while one is actually in the category of the Shudras and the women or less. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, waist, chest, and face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. Srimati Kunti, because of her being the aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet because the Lord might feel ashamed. And thus Kunti Devi, just to save a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above his lotus feet, from the waist of the Lord, gradually rising to the face, and then down to the lotus feet. In the round, everything there is in order. Om Agyan Tibidandhasya Gadanjana Shlakaya Chakshurunamilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanyamano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupakadamayham Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gudo Shri Utapatakamalam Shri Gudun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganadaganatan Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Bhajana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha Hey Krishna Kudana Sandho Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostite Tapta Kanchana Godangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Side Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakal Padadubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gauda Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we can see in today's verse and purport, Queen Kunti continues to pray with beautiful poetry. I'll read it again. Namah Pankaja Nabhaya, Namah Pankaja Maline, Namah Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. She's basically, as Prabhupada mentions at the end of the purport, she's filled with the beautiful vision of Krishna. You know, Krishna is standing before her. He's just saved her and her entire family once again from this Brahmastra, which was released to destroy, the child within the womb. And so here she is, beginning to offer these beautiful, beautiful prayers, and she's so eloquent. Her speaking is so poetic. It reminds us of the songs of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, isn't it? Like we just read the Nam Sankirtan. She's just enunciating these beautiful names of Krishna. And in the previous verses, she had mentioned that these qualities of Krishna, he's alakshana, that he's not manifest. And then she goes on to describe how Krishna is manifest in the form right in front of her, this beautiful form as a cowherd boy. In the previous verse, it's describing Krishna in relationship to his parents, right? In relationship to Vasudeva, Devaki. He's the cowherd boy, son of Nanda Maharaj. And he's this little cowherd boy in Vrindavan, right? And this most beautiful image of Krishna in Vrindavan with the cows and protecting the devotees, etc. And then here today we're seeing another perspective on Krishna's beautiful form. It's like she's looking directly at the deity. And this seems to be Prabhupada's emphasis in the purport, is that she's directly interacting with Krishna in the form of that he's meant to be worshipped in. Right? Just like when we go before the deities, we begin by looking at Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish. We begin by looking at Dwarkadish's feet. And then gradually we move upwards towards his waist. And then we see eventually his beautiful face, right? That shining, beautiful face, which is smiling very beautifully. So in the same way, Queen Kunti is approaching her nephew, right? He's the son of her brother. So she's approaching very humbly and seeing him just as we see the deity. Except because she has this very intimate relationship with him, she doesn't want to embarrass him, because she's senior to him. If she were to come up and look at his feet, Krishna, he's so humble that he might feel like a little bit, Mata, please, right? And therefore she goes ahead and she begins at his waist, and then as Prabhupada says, she makes the rounds, Then she goes to his face, then she goes to his feet, yeah? And for her, she's being filled with this absolutely beautiful vision. I'm sure most of us, we've experienced lotuses. There used to be, I don't know if they're there anymore, but in Kennethon Park, there used to be lotuses growing there. And some devotees, myself, we would go and excavate. We would do a little gardening. And then you bring some to Krishna and you make a beautiful garland for Krishna. And the lotuses smell so beautiful, right? I mean, is there anything really as beautiful in the smell? It fills the entire temple room. Certainly, if you're a pujari, it fills yourself, your clothes and your hands. Everything smells like lotuses. And the lotus is very beautiful. It's got this super delicate, soft pink color. It's really it's evocative of the spiritual world. We hear in the Brahma Samhita that Krishna's own abode, the supreme abode, right? Goloka, is actually a lotus. Yeah? Krishna lives in a lotus, And so then when Krishna comes to the material world, his entire body and his form, as we hear in the Nectar of Devotion, it reminds us of a lotus flower. In fact, there's that one statement, I think it's Krishna's like a lotus, and is it 9 places, Archita Prabhu? I can't remember exactly, but he's mentioned his hands are like lotuses, his feet are like lotuses, his eyes are like lotuses, yeah, his cheeks are like lotuses. And so in this way, when Srimati Radharani looks at lotus flowers, she immediately remembers Krishna, right? And that's telling us that if we want to understand the beauty, the delicacy of Krishna's form, the sweetness of his form, we should look at the lotus flower. Yeah? You can smell the lotus flower, feel the softness of the lotus flower. And when you see, the lotus flowers rising up from their stems out of a soft, a cooling pond, say, for example, and maybe in India in the Himalayas or something like that. If you were to come upon, you're traveling through the mountains and climbing, very rigorous and difficult and hard, and somehow or other you make your way thirsty to a beautiful pond filled with lotus flowers and swans. So that cooling feeling and that delicious fragrance, that's like the peacefulness and the calmness that the vision of Krishna should give you. That sweetness. And so Prabhupada mentions in the purport that the form of Krishna, just as we have these beautiful deities here, Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadesh Ki. So they are meant to give that feeling of peacefulness, that feeling of softness for those of us who are struggling and suffering in material existence. Right? Material existence is horrible. It's you're basically just tortured 24 hours a day. Even when you try to sleep as some sort of respite, you'll be punished in the form of nightmares. There's no escaping it. And what to speak of the suffering caused by others and the suffering caused by catastrophes? We have the suffering of our own mind. Right? It's like, imagine you have, the Yamadutas torture somebody. You have a Yamaduta riding on your back 24 hours a day in the form of the mind. But Krishna, he gives peace from that. Right? He is like a cool, beautiful, fragrant lotus flower that you smell and you become filled with the flavor of that lotus. And you become totally peaceful and happy and satisfied. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada gave us these deities to worship. And they are an oasis within this material world. They are that lotus pond. And so when you look upon the deities, immediately you feel peaceful. Isn't it? And also, in addition to the deities, you have the topics of Krishna. Just like we're hearing this Srimad Bhagavatam, we're meant to, as much as possible, absorb the mind and topics of Krishna and service to the Bhagavatam, as well as the service to the person Bhagavatam, like Srila Prabhupada. Right? The service to the spiritual master. I was just actually reading in the prayers of Queen Kunti. Srila Prabhupada mentions that the devotee should constantly be absorbed in 2 things: hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and serving the spiritual master. And it kind of struck me, that one little sentence. It was only like 10 words long or something. But that one little sentence, you could just accept that as your life's teachings and you would reach perfection. Yeah? And so these things, service to the spiritual master, hearing and absorbing in the topics of Krishna, as well as seeing the beautiful form of Krishna, they fill ourselves with the peacefulness and the calmness of Krishna himself. It's almost like a calm and gentle, a reassuring hand of Krishna, We're all suffering in this material world. Krishna's Bhaktavatsal. He looks upon us and he sees our suffering. Right? When Sri Sri Rukmini Dwarkadish, we see devotees, they come before them all day long. That's what they're seeing. They're seeing, these are my servants. Krishna is very merciful. If you do anything for Krishna, he looks upon you as if you're doing a lot. Right? Even if you're just doing something small for him, he's so generous and kind that he sees you as doing something very, very great. And he feels very merciful and compassionate to everyone. That's what kind of person he is. He's the greatest possible personality, the nicest person you could ever imagine. And he's the most merciful. And therefore, when devotees come before him, he sees, look at, my poor devotees burning within the fire of material existence. And what does he want to give you to make you peaceful and to help you? Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tatvataha. Right? He descends within the material world specifically to show his wonderful pastimes, as well as to speak philosophy such as in Bhagavad Gita. And in hearing and chanting these wonderful topics, we become filled, that burning sensation of material existence, it becomes evaporated. Right? Samsadadava naladila loka. It's like a raining down of sweetness upon us, which actually calms, the continuous suffering of material existence. So when Queen Kunti, she's sitting here looking at the Lord, and she's really seeing Krishna as a deity standing before her. Right? And in the previous verse, she was remembering his wonderful, beautiful pastimes in Vrindavan. And now she's seeing that your form is just like a beautiful vision of lotuses. And so this lotus-like form, the emphasis Srila Prabhupada is giving us in the purport is that it's a calming form, which is actually, it makes us very peaceful and takes away the burning fire of material existence. You can imagine if it's a hot summer day and you're burning up and someone takes a lotus and dips it in like a cool pond of water and then sort of wipes it across your forehead. And you can smell that lotus, etc. So that's this kind of soft, beautiful form of Krishna that's being shown here. Okay? Prabhupada also mentions other things in the purport. He mentions how these different deity forms, they're specifically meant for us, the residents of Kali Yuga. We are this Shudra, Stri, Dvi, Bandhu. We all fit pretty much within these categories. We're born into the darkness of ignorance. And we really, we don't have much hope, especially by our own power. We're very weak by our material nature, our conditioned nature. We're in Kali Yuga, we're very sinful by nature. And therefore, spiritual life is actually very, very difficult for us. But Krishna, he comes to us in ways to try to make it very easy. He meets us halfway, Like sometimes we feel that, my gosh, how can I even practice Krishna consciousness? It's so hard, even to do the basic thing, even to chant my rounds or follow the regulative principles. I've been practicing for 40 years and still, just to follow the regulative principles and chant the holy name, that's like all of my strength is required to do that. Sometimes we may feel that way. But that's all right. Krishna understands, and he comes to us in ways that make it easy for us to approach him. Yeah, he comes in the deity form specifically, and Prabhupada mentions that we shouldn't think that we are, we're too advanced for the deities, or we've moved beyond the deities. I no longer need deity worship, right? I no longer need to absorb myself in serving Krishna like this as he's come. But rather, this particular deity form, it's Krishna revealing his own beautiful form to us and then giving us the opportunity to serve him with these hands, serve him with these feet, right? Serve him with our mind, serve him with our heart, with our devotion. And so he's really giving us opportunity to sort of bathe ourselves in his own personal association. Right? And that's what the whole temple is really centered around. This building, this room, you can see so much effort goes into the worship of the deities. In fact, it mentioned in yesterday's verse how the Lord, he's actually in the purport, Prabhupada mentions, that he's Govinda, he's the Lord in Vrindavan. And Krishna in Vrindavan, one interesting thing is that in the young age of Kumara, which is mentioned yesterday, he's Gopa Kumara, he's actually covered in flowers, Krishna as a young boy, he goes into the forest and he's completely decked out very beautifully, right? He wears his clothing, he has the various, might say, symbols of Krishna. He's carrying a conch shell, he carries a cane, he carries a bugle, and he carries a flute, right? And these are the different paraphernalia of a cowherd boy. He's Gopakumar. And when he goes into the forest, he's decorated very beautifully with flowers, not just with flower garlands, but with flowers in his hair, right? He's like a sweet young little cowherd boy, like maybe this tall or something, and he goes into the forest every day, and he's decked out very beautifully with flowers in his hair, with garlands, and carrying these different instruments. And so we do the same thing for Shri Shri Rukmini Dwarkadish on the altar. Look how many flowers are there. Right? And flowers, perhaps the most expensive part of deity worship, and certainly they're one of the most difficult to maintain, isn't it? How many devotees does it take every day back there making garlands? And half of the pujari room is just flowers, right? And all the effort that's put into cooling them and buying them, that's a tremendous amount of work. And so really this is, in one sense, it's the majority of our deity worship is practically flowers. There's dressing and everything like that too, which is very beautiful. But so much effort goes into that because Krishna is really like the king of flowers. He decorates himself with flowers, and the smell of the flowers and everything like that, that's really essential to who Krishna is. In Vrindavan, Krishna's a little boy covered in flowers, right? And these lotus flowers, they're kind of like the perfect flower which represents Krishna himself. Yeah? And I was mentioning you have the instruments of the cowherd boy. So like the bugle itself, it's quite interesting. And Krishna carries this buffalo horn. I don't know if you've ever seen it. Is he wearing it now? I can't see. But sometimes you'll see he has a wooden buffalo horn. So what that's for is because he's a little cowherd boy. When he goes into the forest, cowherds, they use this horn to call the cows. And cows really respond, In fact, you can look, and for those devotees online, you can look on YouTube. There's various videos where people go and they'll play like a trumpet or something like that in a field, or they'll play like a trombone, any kind of horn. If you play it in the field, immediately, even if the cows are way distant over the horizon, they'll come walking up, by the hundreds. They'll come, and as soon as you play a horn, cows will respond, and they're very attracted to it, any kind of music, but specifically these horns. And therefore, traditionally, you'll see that cowherd men and cowherd boys, they have a horn, and and immediately, all the cows come walking over, right? And it's mentioned elsewhere, I've heard, that Krishna has almost like a japa beads that are made of like jewels. And he sits there and he counts all the cows. That's what he does. Because a cowherd boy, he has to make sure that all the cows are accounted for. He has to make sure no one's missing. And so we're chanting Krishna's name all day. He's chanting the name of his cows. Right? Oh, I only remember one off the top of my head. It's Mridanga Mukhi, right? Who can forget? Because his head is shaped like a mridanga, So Krishna enjoys, come here, Padma, come here, Mridanga Mukhi, come. And then he blows his horn, and then he counts and makes sure they're all okay, right? And then another name for Krishna is Kana, right? He carries a stick. And what is a stick used for? In America, we have there's also a cowboy culture. Of course, people they use rope and different things like that, and riding on a horseback. But in traditional cultures, you'll see that the cowherd men and also, sheep herders, they carry a stick, right? And the stick is used to defend the cows, especially against wolves and coyotes and wild dogs and stuff like that. You have to get them away from the cows. Or sometimes they tap the cow, move off the road or whatever. And also it's used as a walking stick. So Krishna's always got this stick with him, even as a little boy. Can you imagine? Krishna's only 6, 7, 8 years old, and he's got a little walking stick, like a little cowherd boy, right? And he's got a bugle, and then the conch shell, of course. The cowherd boys can call each other across the forest, And then Krishna, of course, his most beloved instrument is his flute. This little cowherd boy raises the flute to his lips, and he entertains all of Vrindavan. It's mentioned that, the movable objects, they freeze. Right? Even the river Jamuna will stop flowing due to the beautiful blowing of Krishna's flute. Yeah? You can imagine it right now, filling the whole atmosphere of the forest of Vrindavan. And remember in Krishna book, when Balaram Ji and Krishna enter the forest of Vrindavan, and Krishna is glorifying how beautiful it is. Yeah? And he's glorifying, my dear, Dauji, my dear Balaram. Just look at how Vrindavan forest is worshiping you. Just look how the trees are bowing down to you. Yeah? And so in this way, the entire forest of Vrindavan is so beautiful. It's unimaginable. Just like when we see the forest, we think, oh, it's so beautiful. That's just a perverted reflection of the beauty of Vrindavan. There, Shri Akhanda Kanda Padama Purusha Kalpata Devo, Druma Bhumi Shchinta Maniganamai Toyam Amritam. The water is like nectar. If you're there, imagine you're a cowherd boy. And on all the cowherd boys, they're constantly playing with Krishna. And playing is thirsty. You become thirsty. So they run down to the Jamuna, and you take a little in your hand and you drink it, and it tastes like nectar. It tastes delicious, absolutely delicious. And then when the cowherd boys are walking in the forest, they're dancing. Yeah, every word is a song, and every step is a dance. Just like the wonderful Queen Kunti, just look how her words have become like songs. Nama Pankaja Nabhaya, Nama Pankaja Maline, Nama Pankaja Netraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. Yeah, and so the devotees are so poetic, and all the cowherd boys, when they're talking to each other, it's all very beautiful. Yeah, and filled with devotion, just like these prayers of Queen Kunti. And every step is a dance. When the cowherd boys are walking along, they're skipping, jumping, dancing. It even mentions the various activities of the cowherd boy. One of them is dancing. They like to dance together, right? While they're herding the cows. They have their responsibility, but most of the stuff they're doing is playing, right? Most of what the cowherd boys do all day is just to play with Krishna. And they have all sorts of activities. Nectar Devotion goes into great detail. Yeah? They like to, first of all, wrestle. Like when the cowherd boys, when they see Krishna, and they're always challenging each other. And especially they like to challenge Krishna. Like even it mentions Krishna, it's almost like he can't even walk around with a sweet in his hand, otherwise they'll grab it, And they're always challenging Krishna, hey Krishna, Krishna's eating, and then they look over and they slap your arms. Come on, bring it on, right? And they want to wrestle. And they want to wrestle about anything. Yeah, they're always wrestling with each other, challenging each other. Yeah, and so there's so many beautiful pastimes with this beautiful Krishna in the spiritual world. And Krishna, the cowherd boys, they also, they have many other activities they like to do. It also mentions they like to sit around and advise each other, like they're always talking. They talk all the time. They lay around together, like on the ground or in the forest, and some of them, and they have the little tiny boys, right? But they have very serious conversations, like yes, I advise you to go ahead and do this. Oh, you do, or they not only do they do that, they sometimes it mentions in Nectar Devotion that they will tell each other not only advice, but they will say, like, encourage each other to do good things for others. Like, well, yes, this elderly gopi, you should bring her some yogurt, or, you should take care of this one. They're very mature, right? And so Krishna enjoys all these joking words. And so it's such a beautiful place that it should inspire us, It should inspire us, this beautiful vision of Krishna given by Shri Kunti Devi, and the beautiful deity form given to us by Srila Prabhupada, these topics of Krishna given to us by Srila Prabhupada, they should entice us from this burning material world. They should really be our oasis. We should really, as we're confronted with the misery and suffering, we should look towards this beautiful form of Krishna, both the deity of Krishna, as well as Krishna in the spiritual world, and his beautiful pastimes there, and the personality of Krishna. Right? We have this form of Krishna, but Krishna himself, he's like a lotus. He's so beautiful and so soft and so kind that we can actually take shelter of him completely and have full faith that he will give us everything that we need, right? This is the definition of Shraddha. That we believe that sarva karma krita hoy, all activities are perfectly performed if we just take shelter of Krishna. And he is that shelter. Yeah? What's that verse? Maybe Archita Prabhu can help me out with King Kulashekar. He's diving to the stems. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yes. So Maharaj Kula Shekhar prays that he is actually wishing even to die right now while he's young and capable and his intelligence is there, so that he can fully take shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Just like a swan, it's always keeping its nose down into the stems of the lotus flower. It's always absorbing itself very deeply in the lotus. So similarly, we have to be like that swan. We have to keep our beak, down under the stem-like lotus feet of Krishna, and bury ourselves deeply under these cooling waters of Krishna, right? And then that's the real shelter from the fire of material existence. So the best way, of course, Srila Prabhupada emphasizes countless times how to take shelter of Krishna is to absorb ourselves in His holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And to chant it as much as possible, as well as worship the deity form of Krishna. And in this way, we'll keep ourselves under the shelter of Krishna, and we'll feel that cooling, beautiful vision of lotuses ourselves. So thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Are there any questions or comments? No? Okay, thank you very much. Haribol.